Welcome to a comprehensive examination of the United States Navy's Carrier Strike Group. Today we're exploring one of the most sophisticated naval formations in modern warfare, a coordinated fleet of vessels and aircraft that represents the foundation of American power projection. The Carrier Strike Group combines naval aviation, surface warfare, and undersea combat power to project American military might across global waters. We'll examine how these formations are structured, how their components work together, why they remain central to American strategy, and address some persistent myth about their effectiveness. By the end of this analysis, you'll understand why these formations continue to shape naval strategy worldwide, and why they remain relevant in an era of evolving maritime threats. The Carrier Strike Group represents naval warfare evolution over 8 decades. At its core, this formation centers on a single aircraft carrier, designed to project power across vast distances while defending against threats above, on, and below the ocean's surface. The concept emerged from World War II, when naval strategists realized aircraft carriers had fundamentally changed maritime warfare. The attack on Pearl Harbor demonstrated that carrier-based aircraft could strike targets hundreds of kilometers from the fleet, making battleship guns seem antiquated compared to naval aviation's reach and versatility. During the Pacific War, the U.S. Navy organized carrier task forces, earlier versions of today's strike groups. The famous Fast Carrier Task Force 58 proved this concept during island-hopping campaigns, where carrier aviation cleared skies and pounded shore targets while escorts provided protection. Post-war developments saw these arrangements evolve into modern structure. The Cold War demanded systematic approaches to naval power projection, as the Soviet Union built formidable submarine fleets and developed anti-ship missiles starting in the early 1960s, with increasingly sophisticated anti-ship weapons following in the 1970s and 1980s. Aegis combat systems, developed specifically to counter Soviet missile threats, gave destroyers and cruisers the ability to track and engage dozens of aerial threats simultaneously. Advanced passive sonar systems improved submarine detection, while electronic warfare capabilities grew more sophisticated. Nuclear propulsion transformed operations in the 1960s. The USS Enterprise, America's first nuclear-powered carrier, could steam at high speed for months without refueling, granting unprecedented strategic mobility no longer tethered to frequent fuel stops. Today's formations adapt composition based on mission requirements and the threat environment, maintaining the core principle established 8 decades ago. Use naval aviation as the primary strike weapon, while employing escorts to protect the carrier and extend the defensive perimeter. Now let's examine the components that make the system work, starting with the centerpiece that gives the formation its name. The aircraft carrier stands as the most visible symbol of American naval power, and for good reason. These floating cities displace over 100,000 tons and stretch more than 330 meters in length, longer than 3 football fields placed end to end. But size alone doesn't explain their importance. What makes carriers revolutionary is their ability to bring a complete air force to any ocean on Earth. The United States currently operates 2 classes of aircraft carriers. The Nimitz class, introduced in 1975, forms the backbone of the carrier fleet with 10 vessels in service. These nuclear-powered giants carry crews of approximately 5,000 sailors and can operate for over 20 years without refueling their reactors. The newer Ford class, with the USS Gerald R. Ford commissioned in 2017, incorporates advanced technologies like electromagnetic catapults and improved radar systems, while maintaining similar size and crew requirements. The flight deck represents the carrier's primary weapon system. This 5-acre platform launches and recovers aircraft around the clock using steam or electromagnetic catapults and arresting gear cables. 4 catapults can launch aircraft every 30 seconds during intensive operations, while 4 arresting cables allow recovery operations on the angled deck. These operations occur in cycles. The ship alternates between launching and recovering aircraft rather than conducting both simultaneously. But the real power of a carrier lies in its air wing, typically 60 to 80 aircraft representing multiple mission sets. The F/A-18E Super Hornet serves as the primary strike fighter, capable of air-to-air combat, precision ground strikes, and aerial refueling missions. These twin-engine aircraft can carry over 8,000 kilograms of ordnance and operate at distances exceeding 700 kilometers from the carrier. The newer F-35C Lightning II brings 5th-generation stealth technology to carrier aviation. Its advanced sensors and low observable design allow it to operate in heavily defended airspace where conventional aircraft cannot survive. With internal weapon base and sophisticated electronic warfare systems, the F-35C represents the cutting edge of carrier-based combat aviation. Electronic warfare comes from the EA-18G Growler, a specialized variant of the Super Hornet designed to jam enemy radar and communications. These aircraft create corridors of electromagnetic interference that protect strike packages and degrade enemy defensive systems. Their powerful jamming pods can disrupt targets hundreds of kilometers away. Airborne early warning and control comes from the E-2D Advanced Hawkeye. This twin turboprop aircraft carries a rotating radar dome that can detect airborne and surface targets at ranges exceeding 500 kilometers. The E-2D serves as the strike group's eyes and ears, coordinating air defense and directing fighter aircraft to intercept threats. Helicopter squadrons provide anti-submarine warfare, logistics, and search and rescue capabilities. The MH-60R Seahawk specializes in submarine hunting using dipping sonar and sonobuoys, while the MH-60S handles cargo transport, medical evacuation, and surface warfare missions. The carrier air wing represents more than just individual aircraft. It's an integrated combat system that can simultaneously conduct air superiority, strike, electronic warfare, and reconnaissance missions across a radius of over 1,000 kilometers from the ship. Carrier defenses have evolved far beyond the aircraft they carry. Modern carriers mount sophisticated radar systems, electronic countermeasures, and close-in weapon systems designed to defeat incoming missiles and aircraft. Rolling airframe missiles provide short-range air defense, while the close-in weapon system uses rapid-fire cannons to destroy incoming threats in the final seconds before impact. However, the carrier's greatest defense comes from its escort vessels, which form multiple defensive rings around the high-value unit. These escorts don't just protect the carrier, they extend the strike group's offensive reach and provide specialized capabilities the carrier cannot perform alone. Guided missile cruisers serve as the strike group's senior escorts, combining air defense, surface strike, and command functions. The Ticonderoga-class cruisers displace 9,600 tons and carry the Aegis combat system. Their Spy-1 phased array radars can simultaneously track over 100 airborne targets while guiding interceptor missiles toward the most threatening ones. Each cruiser carries 122 vertical launch system cells that can accommodate various missile types. Standard missiles provide area air defense out to ranges exceeding 160 kilometers. Tomahawk cruise missiles give the strike group precision land attack capabilities at ranges over 1,600 kilometers. Harpoon anti-ship missiles engage surface targets, while anti-submarine rockets deal with underwater threats. The cruiser's command facilities often serve as the strike group's flagship, housing the admiral and staff responsible for coordinating multi-ship operations. Advanced communication equipment maintains contact with forces spread across thousands of square kilometers of ocean. Guided missile destroyers form the backbone of the escorts force, typically numbering 4 to 6 vessels per strike group. The Arleigh-Burke-class destroyers, at 8,400 tons displacement, pack remarkable combat power into their 155-meter hulls. Like cruisers, they carry Aegis combat systems, but their 90 to 96 vertical launch cells focus more heavily on air defense missions. These destroyers excel at ballistic missile defense, a critical capability as more nations develop medium-range ballistic missiles capable of targeting naval forces. The Standard Missile 3 can intercept ballistic missiles in the mid-course phase of flight, providing a defensive umbrella over the entire strike group. Destroyer anti-submarine capabilities center around the AN/SQS-53 sonar system and MH-60R Seahawk helicopters. The sonar can detect submerged contact at ranges exceeding 20 kilometers under favorable conditions, while embarked helicopters extend detection ranges and provide rapid response to submarine contact. Some Arleigh-Burke destroyers also deploy tactical towed array sonar, providing long-range passive detection of submarines. Attack submarines represent the strike group's most secretive component. Typically, a couple of Los Angeles or Virginia-class submarines operate in coordination with surface forces. These nuclear-powered submarines displace between 6,900 and 7,800 tons submerged and can dive to depths exceeding 240 meters. Submarine missions include intelligence gathering, anti-submarine warfare, and precision strikes against land and sea targets. Their Tomahawk missiles can strike targets inland, while Mark 48 torpedoes provide anti-submarine and anti-surface capabilities. Perhaps most importantly, submarines serve as scouts and pickets ahead of the formation, gathering intelligence and engaging high-value targets if the opportunity arises. The strike group's logistics tail includes replenishment ships that extend deployment endurance far beyond what any individual vessel could achieve. Fast combat support ships carry fuel, ammunition, spare parts, and food needed to sustain intensive operations for months. These vessels can transfer thousands of tons of supplies while underway, allowing the strike group to remain on station without returning to port. Looking toward the future, the U.S. Navy plans to incorporate Constellation-class frigates into strike group compositions. The 7,300-ton vessels will provide additional escort capability with emphasis on anti-submarine warfare and air defense. Their smaller size and lower cost will allow more numerous procurements while freeing larger destroyers for high-end combat missions. The strength of a carrier strike group lies not in any single platform, but in how these diverse components work together as an integrated fighting system. Each vessel and aircraft contributes unique capabilities that, when properly coordinated, create a fit far exceeding what any individual unit could achieve alone. This integration begins with command and control. The strike group commander, typically a rear admiral, coordinates operations from the flagship, usually the carrier or a cruiser. Advanced communications networks link every platform in the formation, sharing radar data, target information, and tactical coordination in real time. The cooperative engagement capability allows ships separated by hundreds of kilometers to share sensor data and coordinates missile engagements as if they were a single weapon system. Formation tactics reflects both defensive requirements and offensive objectives. During high-threat transit operations, escorts form protective screens around the carrier, with destroyers positioned to provide optimal radar coverage and missile engagement zones. Submarines operate in advance of or flanking the surface formation, providing early warning of underwater threats and intelligence on enemy movement. When conducting strike operations, the formation adapts to support flight operations while maintaining defensive posture. The carrier maneuvers to launch and recover aircraft, while escorts position themselves to provide maximum air defense coverage over likely enemy approach routes. Air defense operates in multiple layers, creating a defensive envelope extending from the immediate vicinity of the strike group out to ranges exceeding 400 kilometers. Carrier-based E-2D Hawkeye aircraft provide the outermost detection layer, identifying potential threats while they are still hundreds of kilometers away. Fighter aircraft establish combat air patrol along likely enemy approach routes, engaging hostile aircraft before they can threaten surface ships. Should enemy aircraft penetrate the fighter screen, ship-based systems provide multiple engagement opportunities. Long-range standard missiles engage targets at extended ranges. Medium-range evolved Sea Sparrow missiles provide medium-range air defense for individual ships. Close-in weapon systems offer last resort protection against missiles that penetrated all other defensive layers. Electronic warfare aircraft disrupt enemy targeting systems during the engagements phase, where missiles are en route to the strike group. Coordinated jamming can blind enemy radars or feed false information, degrading their ability to maintain accurate targets tracking during the critical mid-course phase. In the terminal phase of incoming missile attack, these aircraft focus on confusing or blinding the missile seekers themselves rather than the launching platform's fire control systems. Anti-submarine warfare requires constant vigilance and coordinated efforts across multiple platforms. Surface ships maintain active and passive sonar searches, while helicopters deploy sonar buoys in patterns designed to detect transiting submarines, while attack submarines provide covert surveillance of choke points in high-value areas. The strike group's offensive power projection combines naval aviation with long-range missiles to engage targets across multiple domains simultaneously. Carrier air wings plan and execute complex strike packages involving dozens of aircraft with different specializations. Electronic warfare aircraft suppress enemy air defenses, while strike aircraft deliver precision munitions against high-value targets. Fighter escorts protect the strike package from enemy aircraft, while aerial refueling extends range and endurance. Surface ships contribute to land attack missions through Tomahawk cruise missile strikes. These weapons can be programmed for precise timing to coordinate with airstrikes, overwhelming enemy defenses through simultaneous multi-axis attacks. GPS guidance and terrain matching systems allow engagement of targets over 1,600 kilometers from launch platforms with accuracy measured in meters. Intelligence and reconnaissance assets from across the strike group contributes to a common operational picture. submarine surveillance, aircraft reconnaissance, electronic intelligence gathering, and signals intercept combine to provide commanders with comprehensive situational awareness, extending hundreds of kilometers beyond the formation's physical boundaries. This level of integration requires extensive training and standardized procedures. Strike group workup cycles involve months of individual units training, followed by combined exercises that test every aspect of multi-platform coordination. Advanced simulators allow crews to practice complex scenarios without expending expensive ordnance or risking equipment damage. The result is a naval formation capable of adapting to rapidly changing tactical situations while maintaining coordinated defensive posture and offensive capability. Carrier strike groups occupy a unique position in American military strategy, serving functions that no other force can replicate. Their strategic value extends far beyond their impressive firepower to encompass diplomacy, deterrence, and crisis response. The fundamental strategic advantage of carrier strike groups lies in their mobility and self-sufficiency. Unlike land-based forces that require host nation agreements, basing rights, and extensive logistics infrastructure, carrier strike groups can position themselves in international waters within range of virtually any coastal nation. This freedom of movement allows American policymakers to respond to crisis or apply pressure without the political complications inherent in land-based deployments. Forward presence represents perhaps the most important peacetime mission of carrier strike groups. The mere presence of these formations in contested regions sends unmistakable signals to both adversaries and allies. For potential opponents, a carrier strike group represents over 60 combat aircraft and hundreds of precision-guided missiles that can be brought to bear within hours of political decision-making. This visible capability often demonstrates American commitment and resolve. For allies, carrier presence provides a degree of reassurance about American security guarantees, although there are of course limits to this reassurance. Crisis response capabilities give political leaders options between diplomatic protest and large-scale military intervention. Carrier strike groups can evacuate American citizens from conflict zones, enforce no-fly zones, conduct humanitarian assistance operations, or execute limited military strikes, all without requiring host nation permission or extensive preparation time. This flexibility proves particularly valuable in situations where traditional land-based responses would take weeks to organize or prove politically impossible. However, modern warfare presents evolving challenges to carrier strike group effectiveness. Anti-access and area denial strategies specifically target large naval formations operating close to hostile shores. Long-range anti-ship ballistic missiles and hypersonic weapons, often called carrier killers, pose threats that require constant adaptation of tactics and technology. These advanced weapons travel at high speeds and can potentially overwhelm traditional defensive systems through their velocity and trajectory characteristics. Quieter submarines and coordinated swarms of smaller attack craft add additional complexity to the threat environment. Chinese military developments specifically target American carrier strike groups through multi-layered defensive systems designed to prevent these formations from operating effectively within the first and the second island chains. The DF-21D and DF-26 carrier killer missiles, combined with advanced submarine forces and land-based aviation, create what military analysts call anti-access umbrellas around Chinese territory. Despite these challenges, carrier strike groups retain advantages ensuring continued relevance. Their combination of mobility, firepower, endurance, and self-defense remains unmatched by any other military systems. The ability to project sustained air power from the sea while maintaining strategic mobility provides options that land-based systems cannot match. The industrial and technological barriers to building effective carrier forces means that potential adversaries face enormous challenges in developing comparable capabilities. China is basically the only other nation with the capability and the know-how able to build comparable supercarriers. Nuclear propulsion, advanced catapult systems, precision landing equipment, and integrated air defense systems require decades of development and massive financial investments that few nations can sustain. Training and operational experience provide additional American advantages. The institutional knowledge required to operate carrier strike groups effectively take generations to develop. American naval aviators, surface warfare officers, and submarine crews benefit from decades of experience that no potential adversary can match in the near term. As threats evolve, so do carrier strike group concepts of operation. Future deployments may involve more distributed formations and enhanced integration with space-based sensors and cyber warfare capabilities. The basic concept of projecting air power from mobile sea bases remains sound, but its implementation continues adapting to changing strategic environments. Significantly, China itself is building powerful carrier strike groups, demonstrating that military experts and naval strategists worldwide still consider carrier forces highly relevant to modern naval warfare. If these formations were truly obsolete, major naval powers wouldn't be investing millions in developing their own carrier capabilities. The US Navy operates 11 aircraft carriers, but maintenance cycles, crew training, and ship overhauls mean that only 3 to 4 carriers typically deploy simultaneously as part of complete strike groups. This rotation system ensures that deployed forces remain at peak readiness while allowing adequate time for maintenance and crew rest. Additional carriers may be available for surge operations during crisis, but sustained global presence requires careful management of deployment schedules. The goal involves maintaining at least one carrier strike group in each major theater of operations, while preserving reserve capacity for unexpected contingencies. Each carrier costs around $13 billion to build, while annual operating costs exceed $1 billion per ship, including crew, fuel, maintenance, and aircraft operations. These figures don't include escort vessels, aircraft procurement, or infrastructure requirements. The Carrier Strike Group represents 8 decades of naval aviation development, combining technological edge with operational flexibility in ways that continue defining maritime warfare. These formations demonstrate how aircraft carriers, escorts, submarines, and embarked aircraft integrate into systems achieving a fit beyond individual capabilities. The Carrier Strike Group endures because it solves fundamental problems of geography and politics affecting maritime nations. The ability to project sustained military power across oceans while maintaining strategic mobility provides capabilities that remain relevant regardless of technological change.